Let's go!
Thank God it's Friday!
Bow chickie wow wow.
Drop it like it's Ghislaine Maxwell transcript. Oh. All right, huge power panel, huge news day for you guys. Cenk Uygur, John Idarola, Wosny Lambre. Woz is, of course, at The Ringer and the host of Speaks, and John's, of course, the host of Damage Report. All right, guys, about as much news as you could possibly have on a Friday or any day. John Bolton's house has been raided by the FBI. Is it political? 55 million people are going to have their visas checked to see if they are sufficiently pro-Israel. Speaking of Israel, famine has been declared. There's an amazing video of a Holocaust survivor calling out Israel that you've got to see in today's show. Ghislaine Maxwell transcript from her discussion with Donald Trump's personal lawyer, now turned government official, is out. What does that say? Has anybody been incriminated? Well, don't get too excited. All right, so tons of stuff to get to. John, take it away.
Yeah, the only thing I would add to that is personal lawyer turned government official who's still functioning as a personal lawyer, to be clear. But anyway, we'll talk about that more later. Why don't we talk about John Bolton to start off with this?
Look at this, FBI agents raiding the Maryland home of former Trump National Security Advisor John Bolton.
I know nothing about it. I just saw it this morning. They did a raid.
Do you expect the DOJ to brief you on this?
Yeah, they'll brief me, probably today sometime.
And the foreign minister.
I tell Pam and I tell the group, I don't want to know, but just you have to do what you have to do. I don't want to know about it. It's not necessary. I could know about it. I could be the one starting it. I'm actually the chief law enforcement officer. But I feel that it's better this way.
Yeah. He didn't have to know. He could know. He did know this is his idea. That's why they did it. He totally knew. But yeah, John Bolton has now been raided. It's part of a national security investigation in search of classified records, which is now a legitimate thing to do. It was not before he was sworn in. Then it was partisan and illegal. But now classified records are very important, and I think the hunt for classified records very important. If it turns out that John Bolton has been hiding those pesky Epstein documents we can't get released, then yes, I think they should hunt them down and release them. But anyway, we've known for a long time that Donald Trump is not a big fan of John Bolton. He's his former advisor on national security specifically. And so because Bolton has spent the past couple of years criticizing Donald Trump, not only in books, but even recently with the back and forth with both Vladimir Putin and Volodymyr Zelensky, Bolton's been very critical of him. This seems like it could well be a personal thing. Not to say that Bolton doesn't have classified documents. There have been prior attempts at legal processes to try to figure that out. But we want to catch you all up on what's been going on, what different people think is the motivation for this. And we should start first with the DOJ formerly having investigated him. There had been a legal attempt to stop the publication of a memoir that he published, or if they couldn't stop him from publishing, at least stop him from getting money from it. That didn't end up happening previously. Back in 2021, the DOJ under the Biden administration shut down the criminal investigation that was ongoing into John Bolton at that point. And whether this is a sort of like partisan targeting of John Bolton, it's not the first thing that the Trump administration this time around has done in regards to John Bolton. One of the literal first acts that Donald Trump took when he was sworn in as president was to pull the security clearances from a number of former intelligence agencies, as well as taking away security details from some of those. And John Bolton was one of those. And that is significant because John Bolton has previously faced credible accusations. We think that Iran might be targeting him for violence, which Donald Trump himself has faced. And so one might have thought there could be some empathy, but there was not. And so now we're trying to figure out exactly what they were aiming to get. He hasn't been charged, at least as of right now. But JD Vance says that this isn't just about the classified documents that were involved in the initial reporting.
What's at the root of this? Is this about classified documents?
Well, again, I'll let the FBI speak to that. Classified documents are certainly part of it, but I think that there's a broad concern about Ambassador Bolton. They're going to look into it, and like I said, if there's no crime here, we're not going to prosecute it. If there is a crime here, of course, Ambassador Bolton will get his day in court. That's how it should be. But again, our focus here is on, did he break the law? Did he commit crimes against the American people? If so, then he deserves to be prosecuted.
So to be very clear, if it turns out that there was nothing there, nobody can complain because they're just curious, which was definitely, if we were to go back how JD Vance was talking about the raid on Donald Trump a couple of years ago. In any event, we're gonna discuss in just a sec, but first you should hear a little bit more of what Donald Trump had to say about John Bolton in response to the reporting of the raid.
I'm not a fan of John Bolton. He's a real sort of a lowlife. When I hired him, he served a good purpose because, as you know, he was one of the people that forced Bush to do the ridiculous bombings in the Middle East. Bolton, he wants to always kill people, and he's very bad at what he does. But he worked out great for me because every time he doesn't talk, he's like a very quiet person, except on television. If he could say something bad about Trump, he'll always do that. But he really doesn't talk. He's quiet. And I'd walk into a room with him with a foreign country, and the foreign country would give me everything because they said, oh no, they're going to get blown up because John Bolton's there. He's not a smart guy, but he could be a very unpatriotic guy. I mean, we're going to find out.
Okay, so Cenk, I just want you to imagine if the FBI raids Donald Trump's home in Mar-a-Lago for classified documents and they go to Biden for reaction. He says, well, I didn't know about it, but maybe he's unpatriotic. Kind of a lowlife. I don't like the guy. We're gonna see what happens. How do you think Fox would have responded to that?
They're targeting him on purpose based on personal issues with him. That's outrageous. Okay, so A, that's how they would have responded. B, that is how they responded. Biden didn't say anything like that, and they responded that way anyway. So guys, look, if you're MAGA, at some point you got to make up your mind, right? So, oh my God, I can't believe you'd go in and see if you could find classified documents by raiding someone's home like Mar-a-Lago. And now you switch to, it's awesome when you raid someone's home to see if you could find classified documents from a government official. So which one is it? It's just, come on. But as we all know, some folks are hopeless. They're blinded by certain things and they can't see straight. So now you got to look at what really happened here and what are the actual facts. And so there are two things that make me pause before I say it's total junk. So I'll get to those two in a second. But in terms of why I think it's junk, well, Trump has said 1,000,000 times how much he hates John Bolton and how he wanted to target his enemies. And he's literally, Bolton is on Kash Patel's enemies list. So like when you have an enemies list and then you try to find a crime to get that political enemy, well, that's just the worst thing you could do. I mean, that's a total frontal attack on our democracy and our constitutional system. So look, one of the reasons they're going after John Bolton first is because everyone hates him. The left hates him, the right hates him, the middle hates him, his mom hates him, okay? His mustache hates him and says, why do you have me on here and have everyone make fun of me? So, but we can't fall into that trap, guys, because it's not about John Bolton's policies, which we can't stand. It's not about John Bolton as a person that we can't stand. It's about whether we're going to protect his rights. And we have to protect his rights, otherwise we're taking away everyone else's rights. So real quick, the two things that make me go, well, maybe. I mean, tiniest amount of maybe is they did get a warrant from a judge to do this. So apparently they had a tiny amount of evidence at a minimum. And the Biden team, when they first got in, closed the investigation on Bolton that Trump had started in his first term once Bolton left the administration. But then they reopened it. And I'm like, oh, okay. So am I willing to hear out the evidence? And if it turns out Bolton did something actually terrible, should we prosecute him? Of course, of course. I have no love for him. I have no need to protect him. I don't want him to be above the law. And I don't want him to be below the law. I want everyone to get the same kind of justice. But if you're not super concerned about this, given all of the context, you're nuts. Like, guys, they have enemies listed. Now they're picking them off one by one. And to me, my number one concern is I've totally lost trust in our government completely. So already it was threadbare trust to begin with. Everybody's got that black pill ready in their hands that Anna's already taken, right? But now under the Trump administration, and nothing they do is based on the law. It appears that everything they're doing is based on politics and Donald Trump's personal grievances. So when the government says something now, back when I was younger, they used to carry some weight. Then it got less and less weighty. And now when the government says something, it's borderline Israeli, like totally disregarded, totally irrelevant. Try to somehow get the facts, despite the government propaganda that's almost certainly a lie.
I'm just waiting for this administration to do something or put their might behind something and have there be some there. Whether that be immigration and their approach to that, which is just a lot of pomp and circumstance, just a lot of, basically sensationalist type of behaviors in order to get headlines. Like, that's just what they do. The stuff with the cops and the feds in DC and like, oh, we're gonna bring the army and the National Guard to DC. And and look, there's legitimate crime that happens in DC. Carjackings, all kinds of stuff that's happening in DC. The most crime-riddled areas of the city where citizens will probably be like, hey man, it'd be nice to clean some of this up. None of these federal troops are anywhere to be seen. The tariffs, which, they develop a nickname for this guy, Taco Trump, where it's just like, it's all just bluster. Like, everything is just bluster. I'm waiting for these guys to announce something huge, to make a big show of something and actually provide us with like hard evidence about why they're doing this and why it makes sense. And here's the evidence that backs it up. There's just nothing. I mean, this John Bolton thing, it's early days. Like you, Cenk, I'll be here waiting. There's no love lost between me and John Bolton. I think the guy's a scumbag completely. He's never seen a war that he didn't like, a place he didn't want to bomb, an area that he didn't want to commit US troops to. Like, he's a complete and utter sick warmonger. There's no doubt about it. But like the rest of this stuff, I'm waiting for these people to provide something of substance, do something meaningful once, and I'm afraid this won't be that opportunity for them. And lastly, what I'll say is and again, like with the bluster, it serves one purpose, like a singular purpose. Like, you can't go against Donald Trump. If you make yourself Donald Trump's enemy, that goes to all the Republicans in Congress, in the Senate, whoever you are out there. If you go get crosswise of Donald Trump, he's gonna come after you with whatever this type of stuff is.
Yeah, it's not like, oh, he might tweet about me or something like we might have thought. Like, no, he'll fine your university billions of dollars. He'll shut down your museum. He'll get your show canceled. If you're, a governor of the Fed that he doesn't like, he'll find some paperwork issue and he'll try to literally get you sent to jail to clear that spot. Like, this is a person who is doing everything the Republicans pretended to think out of control Dark Brandon was doing that he would never ever do, except worse. That's what he's doing. I'd remind everyone, by the way, so it's easy to draw comparisons to what happened, as I have, to Donald Trump with Mar-a-Lago in this. I want to remind everyone, with Mar-a-Lago, they reached out to him multiple times to give the documents back, and he refused to. He forced their hand so hard, and now they're doing what could end up being a fishing expedition. Not necessarily. Again, I'll complete the trifecta. I don't like John Bolton either. I would not be surprised if he had stolen a document. I also don't think that's why they're searching his house. I don't think they'd care if he was a different person. I think they care because it's John Bolton. And I have a few other thoughts, but I want to get us to this next section. Why don't we do a little bit of a rewind to when John Bolton was asked a question less than 2 weeks ago.
We're about to talk about Trump's retribution campaign we're seeing at the FBI and the Justice Department. You're obviously on his enemies list. at least Kash Patel's enemies list. Are you worried that they're going to come after you in some way? I mean, he's hinted at it before.
Well, I think he's already come after me and several others in withdrawing the protection that we had for from the Iranians for the attack on Qasem Soleimani. So I think, and I said in the new forward to the paperback edition of my book, I think it is a retribution presidency.
And I think that's as clear as it could possibly be. By the way, he mentioned Iran there. And one extra bit of irony that I just think is so funny about this is that Donald Trump points out that John Bolton was a bad advisor because he was a warmonger, which he definitely is. He was always pushing for war. And I just remember, maybe you do too, the number of times that Donald Trump specifically complained about how John Bolton was encouraging him to go to war with Iran. And then, of course, he ended up doing the exact same thing. I don't know, maybe Bibi delivers the message better. Maybe he gives Trump the bedroom eyes. I don't know why it was so much more convincing coming out of Netanyahu's mouth than it was John Bolton, but I guess John Bolton got the war he wanted eventually. In any event, in response to the raid, FBI Director Kash Patel, one of the weirdest phrases in the English language, he had to say this, no one is above the law, FBI agents on mission. And I just think, I've been too critical of the right. I often say that they can't do comedy, but that was pretty good. I think that's pretty funny. I like topical humor. No one's above the law. Obviously, the Supreme Court has told us that Donald Trump is above the law. We know from the last year or two, he's above the law. And isn't it funny in response to this and everything else Donald Trump is doing to target his political opponents to think about how Joe Biden was like, just like wringing his hands like, Donald Trump definitely committed crimes, but Merrick, don't move too fast. Give it a couple years. Just think about it as they talk about him weaponizing the justice system. And now it's just his literal, it's his personal lawyers. And Cenk, I'll throw it to you. No one is above the law. Haven't you guys been covering that story of that Israeli cybersecurity official? Kind of feel like he's above the law.
Yeah. So look, Trump says that he should be above the law. And they made that argument in front of the Supreme Court and they won that argument. So I guess that's that on the argument overall. Second of all, to John's point, almost every Israeli is above the law because we've caught tons of Israeli spies, and normally you'd get a huge sentence, sometimes a life sentence for being a spy. We just give them right back to Israel. Oh, congratulations, do it again, no problem. Sorry, I wish we hadn't caught him, okay? And then we caught this pedophile in Las Vegas, and because he's the Israeli government official, they just let him go. And he's gone, so he's above the law. So any accountability for Israel? I mean, Netanyahu obviously above the law. He can do anything he wants. He is the law here. So whenever anybody who's rich and powerful says no one's above the law, I always find it to be a joke overall, let alone those egregious cases. Now, in the case of John Bolton, one more thing that you should know. They're like, oh, he put some things in his book that might have been classified. And there's dispute about whether they were classified. Okay, yes, but before you publish a book, you're supposed to ask, hey, is it okay to publish these details? And the government either gives you clearance or they don't, right? In this case, so you're perfectly understand the facts at play here. They gave him permission, and he printed the book. And then after the book was printed, they're like, the Trump people are taking back some of the permission. And we now think retroactively that they were classified. So you know how Trump says it's okay, he can steal any classified documents he likes and put them in a Mar-a-Lago bathroom and God knows does whatever he wants with them after the presidency. He says, because I laser-eyed them. If I laser-eye them, they become unclassified. I guess he laser-eyed Bolton's documents and made them reclassified. But no, in a normal, decent, rational justice system, you don't tell a guy, yeah, it's legal, you go ahead and do it. And then after he does it, go, yeah, just kidding, now I'm gonna put you in prison for it. That's not how our system works.
I got nothing more to add. Again, this is just keeping with, excuse me, Trump's intimidation tactics. And it's obviously quite effective when people are like, hey, how come no Republicans have a spine? How come they're willing to twist themselves into knots, defending the inconsistencies and the incoherence of the Trump agenda, thereby making themselves look stupid in public. Like a lot of times they're defending stuff that just 3 days before they were calling horrible. They just look personally stupid in public, and people say, Why are Republicans in the government willing to do this? And this is a good example of why. Like, when you suck up to Trump, you get goodies. When you go against him, you get reprimanded.
Yeah, I want to give you guys a poll to participate in, because this one's painful. Let's see if you guys can do it. TYT.com. Should we defend John Bolton? A, no, I just can't. Okay, and B, yes, it's important to defend his rights. And so the correct answer is winning for now. But I'm amused with the people who are like, I can't, I just can't, not with Bolton. So, yeah, and at least this one's not connected to Israel, because Bolton's a neocon and would do everything that Israel commands, and they arrested him anyway. So hey, okay, at a minimum, it has nothing to do with Israel. Thank God, finally we found a story.
Wonderful. Yeah. Well, I think we should probably take our first break. When we come back, lots more news to get to.
Yeah, we'll be right back. Back on TYT, Konstantin Kaviris with a very trenchant point on Super Chat. Very important insight. John Bolton looks like Gabby J from the Super Punch-Out video game. It's uncanny, and an investigation is needed. All right, that's funny and trenchant, like I said. Amy Meganson writes in the YouTube member section, why are Trump's enemies still in this country? I'm not on an enemies list, and I'm dying to leave the country. Okay. Well, I hope you don't leave, but I get it. Maybe they thought he wasn't really going to do it, or they think that's okay. We'll win in court, and they probably will. Sabnock says, if you hurt Trump's feelings, straight to jail. That does seem like what's happening. Mark Francis 076 says, Trump is definitely going to prison. Bolton. Kevin Shea says, I listen while at the gym. I figure my blood pressure is already up. I might as well put it to use. Okay, Kevin, good thinking. Use an old noggin there. Robert Hurd, thank you for gifting a membership on YouTube. We appreciate it, brother. Jules to you writes in on Twitch. No one's above the law. Translation, projection, right? Good point. Burkena, thank you for subscribing on Twitch with Prime. If you have Amazon Prime, it's free to you guys, but we get the revenue. That's why they call it Bezos bucks. So take just 30 seconds to do this, and you'll help a lot. TYT.com/Prime, TYT.com/Prime, and that'll help us with revenue on Twitch. Big ol' a-hole, it is what it is. Burgundy will read any handle. That's not exactly right, by the way. Anyways, he writes in about the Trump clip we showed you in the beginning, that effing hat. And then there's a lot about the hat, including Gonzo Tokyo, who said, OMG, Trump looks like that grandpa who just can't wear a hat in a way that looks good. I agree with that comment too, and of course the hat said that Trump was right about everything. Bradshaw, excuse me. Bradshaw Crew of One writes in, I think Bolton's smart enough not to have any documents he's not supposed to have at his house or office, unlike Trump, and that's probably true. Nostra Science says, nobody knows what is in John Bolton's mustache. Could be stolen blueprints right in there. Well, okay, fair point. I like how not only smart but amusing our audience is. Don't shoot on the goalkeeper says Bolton sucks ass, but yeah, we defend his rights because they're also our rights, and that's exactly right. Yep. And so, guys, remember to hit the ring the bell button underneath the video too. Obviously, it doesn't cost you anything. It costs you about 2.5 seconds at most. And helps you keep up with the show and helps us a lot. So we appreciate it. Try to ring that bell, okay? I also try to check out our podcasting network where you'll see John's Damage Report as one of the shows, Dr. Rashad Ritchie's Indisputable, of course, Young Turks, Rebel Headquarters. That's all in our podcasting network as well. And obviously, if you want to become a member, tyt.com/join. is the best way to do it. You get a couple of months off from annual membership as well. All right, guys, we'll be right back.
If you're the president of the United States, you can declassify just by saying it's declassified, even by thinking about it.
All right, back on TYT, Cenk, John, and Waz with you guys. John, what's next?
Well, I think what's next is what everyone has been waiting to hear us comment on. It's this.
Did you ever observe President Trump receive a massage?
Never.
So that is a little bit of what has now been released of former personal Trump attorney and now Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche sitting down for an interview with Ghislaine Maxwell. We did not know if we were ever going to get access to the transcripts, let alone the tapes, but they have now been released. And you heard Maxwell there say she never saw Donald Trump get one of these quote unquote massages with Epstein. And the general tenor of these revelations is that she doesn't seem to have anything negative to say of Donald Trump, which is certainly a shocker for all of us. Now, we're gonna move to the transcripts and give you all the different fun twists and turns and the spicy details. But Cenk, first of all, what did you think when you saw that they'd released this stuff?
Exactly what we thought was gonna happen. This is so dumb. It's just a stupid joke. It insults our intelligence. So, okay, the president's former personal lawyer, now a government official, goes to talk to the top, prisoner we have in the country regarding pedophilia and child sex trafficking. And she happens to say, golly gee, first of all, of course, she didn't do it. Nobody did anything. She never set up Prince Andrew or anything like that. We'll get to some more details in a sec. And can you believe it? Golly gee, she says the president had nothing to do with it. And then you're gonna be shocked to find out right afterwards, she gets transferred to a country club prison, like the softest prison we have, which is for someone convicted of child sex trafficking is extraordinary, never happens. I guess these are all just a coincidence. And Ghislaine Maxwell is such an honest person that I believe everything she says, including her saying that she's not guilty at all, and neither is Donald Trump. Okay, sure, yeah, useless.
Yeah. Isn't it ironic that all she had to do is say that he didn't get massages and now she's off in a resort getting massages? Actually, it worked out pretty well for her. And I can't say that she's lying. We'll never know. That's what Donald Trump did by acting so outrageously suspiciously. From the very beginning of this thing to today, he has made it impossible for anyone to just trust in a blanket way the talks with Maxwell, because we know how corrupt he is. We know how he uses the pardon power. We know who Todd Blanche is. That's what Donald Trump did.
And now, that John, said, I'm gonna jump in. So look, guys, I can't say that Trump definitely did it. I really don't know that, right? And there's evidence on both sides. But what I can say for sure is Ghislaine Maxwell's lying. She's a giant liar and a criminal and a crook, and they put her in a position where she'd be rewarded for lying. So of course, one of the worst criminals we've had is going to lie and then and she did get rewarded. So like, no, her testimony, or in this case, not testimony, but her interview with Trump's lawyer has no value, none, zero, total trash. Okay, and look, the whole point theoretically of going to have someone who is in a prosecutorial role in the Trump administration or any administration talk to this person who was involved in the rape of over 1,000 girls in America is that you're supposed to get information on who to prosecute. Okay, spoiler alert, or as my daughter would say, I'm gonna spoil the beans for you. Yeah, they're not gonna prosecute anyone, and they didn't get any information to prosecute anyone, and it doesn't look like they even tried. So they didn't go to prosecute the criminals, they went to try to make sure the criminals got off, whether it's Trump or not in that category. Certainly their number one priority was, Trump is innocent, right? Trump is innocent, right? Of course he is. Great, now you get to go to a country club, okay? And then, hey, do you wanna ask who should we prosecute? Oh, I don't know. I don't know how to ask those questions. Oh, look at that. We are not going to prosecute anyone still, but we are doing investigations and we talked to Ghislaine Maxwell. Shut up. Todd Blanche is a loser, corrupt dirtbag. It was a bagman for Trump and is totally lying to everyone. And so is Trump, and he's a giant waste of time. And he's gonna protect all the criminals. That's what Todd Blanche's job was. That's what Ghislaine Maxwell's job is. So it's a bunch of criminals talking to each other going, you're not gonna give up any information, right? Neither are you, right? No. Okay, great, you get rewards. So it's criminals talking to criminals, useless.
Yeah, pretty much the second they didn't appoint a special prosecutor to investigate this, independent, to go after the facts, like unabridged, uninterrupted, unimpeded by the current government and regime, we kind of just knew the fix was in. And as Cenk pretty astutely just mentioned, usually when you go towards a criminal and you want their testimony, it's because they're gonna help you take down other criminals. It's not to be like, oh, can you like exonerate somebody completely right now who happens to have the power to like lessen your sentence, send you to a more comfortable prison. Like, it's so obvious what the quid pro quo is here. There's no credibility here. And I think, you know, there are other people that love Donald Trump and they'll look for any excuse to exonerate the guy. And I'm sure this will placate them. But anybody who's looking at this in even like a semi-clear-eyed fashion knows that this is a joke. This is a dog and pony show. It's no different than the Epstein tapes they released where they're like, oh, 2 minutes are missing and it's not even pointed at the guy's cell. And there's obviously like 4 other camera angles that aren't provided. This is just more of the same crap, the more of the same obfuscation.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up too, because they initially said it was 1 minute and it's in there in every tape. It's just an automatic thing. And then we found out it's nearly 3 minutes. It's not an automatic thing. And then we found out nothing. That was a month ago. 5-6 weeks ago, nothing. No, we're just never gonna find out anything more about that. I mean, but to be fair, they've been so busy releasing the Epstein files that time, there was no time to look at the tapes. Oh wait, no, they didn't do that either. Weird. It's almost as if they don't want us to realize what's actually going on. We're gonna get to more. If we could just cue up the final video, the Trump video, we're gonna get to more of what she said because she made a lot of bold claims, but the tenor of our conversation has basically been how suspicious this all is. Well, Donald Trump was asked about this, about the files and everything. And his answer today, I think, was as suspicious as it's been from the very beginning. Take a look.
Releasing all of them?
Keeping it open.
If they wanted to release.
People shouldn't be hurt, but I'm in support of keeping it totally open. I couldn't care less. You got a lot of people that it could be mentioned in those files that don't deserve to be. People, because he knew everybody in Palm Beach. I don't know anything about that, but I have said to Pam and everybody else, give them everything you can give them, because it's a Democrat hoax. It's just a hoax. The whole Epstein thing is a Democrat hoax.
So again, it's a hoax. He doesn't care. I don't know anything about it, but I'm going to, for the 5th time, the 10th time, the 20th time, say, well, you know, it's really important that innocent people don't get hurt. You know, because anybody could be in there. I mean, I don't want innocent people. He has expressed concern for the well-being and fate of anonymous, innocent people over and over and over again. I've never heard him express any empathy for the actual victims of Epstein or for Maxwell. The victims who are even now going on TV and saying it is spitting in our face to send her to this minimum security thing, to give her this resort condition. Don't you care about us? We want to come to the Oval Office. We want to see you. Donald Trump cannot give one crap about that. He has not met up with the victims. He has not said anything in regard to the victims, but he always has this deep concern about who might accidentally get hurt if these files were to be released, Cenk, which I think is as suspicious as anything he's ever done.
Yeah, so I'm worried about innocent people getting hurt. Wait, you're not worried about the innocent girls who already got hurt. He's saying the good people in Palm Beach elite society could be named there. And those poor innocent people, he wouldn't want them to get hurt. Who's in the elite Palm Beach society circles? Oh, right, Donald J. Trump and all of his buddies. So he's concerned about the elites. Oh, I'm glad they didn't get hurt. I'm glad they just got to, rape those girls and get away with it. Yes. Why don't you just say it? And John's absolutely right. I've never seen him say one thing about the girls, one thing of like, God, that's terrible, etc. Even when he was pretending that he wanted Epstein files released, outrageous, they're not getting released. He gets in office, don't release them, don't release them. Then he gets his lawyer to go down there and say, all right, tell her to tell everyone that I didn't do it. Okay, he didn't do it. I want full transparency. Yeah, I said release them all. No, your government literally said don't release any of them. We will never release any of them, and we will never prosecute any of the clients. That's what your government put out. Now you get this false testimony from one of these scumbag criminals who helped to rape those girls, and now you go, oh yeah, now I trust her. That's the criminal is correct. And you remember, we want to protect the other criminals because we don't want anybody who's innocent among the rich and powerful getting hurt just because they got to have sex with those girls, So that's what I'm worried about. How do you not see it, man? The number one frustration I have with all of politics and news these days is blindness. And blindness applies to everyone. I mean, just look at the last year and a half. Democrats are like, Joe Biden's old? No, crazy. No, he's young and dynamic. And Republicans are like, Trump's a criminal who's hiding something? No, he's a con man who's constantly lies. No, he's for the average guy. Are you kidding me? Let alone the people who are like, oh yeah, Israel's genocide? I don't see it. I just see anti-Semitism. Everyone is blind. It's so frustrating. Was.
Yeah, and I would just remind people again, and I've said this before, if the feds want to, like when they're really proud of the cases that they put together, they will do all kinds of Dateline NBC, HBO documentaries. They will walk you through all the evidence that they collected, what they found at the guy's house, they will literally show you everything. There's nothing stopping them from doing this. Like for instance, I'm somebody who's always watching like mafia stuff, right? Like Rudy Giuliani in the Eastern District of New York and their prosecution. You can watch countless of stuff on YouTube, different networks, where they're just playing you hours of tapes of these mob guys incriminating themselves. They're like showing you step by step. Here's a financial document that shows you they corrupted this union, they corrupted this thing. Like they will literally walk you step by step of all of the evidence of the cases that they've made and explain to you that, like, they'll be like, look, this looked suspicious. We couldn't get them on this, but there was this thing and there was that. Like, they do this all the time is what I'm trying to say. They do this all the time where they show you the evidence that they have to, basically incriminate people that they've gone after. They have no problem showing this stuff. So this idea that like, there's gonna be innocent people, or it's all just crap. It's just a cover up. It's nothing else.
Yeah. I'll just quickly mention before we go to break, because we have so many other big stories, that she mentioned a few other things. She says she doesn't believe that Epstein killed himself, which I guess isn't necessarily what Trump would want the message to be out there as. She said she didn't do anything wrong. Okay. She said that Bill Clinton didn't receive any massages, which again, probably isn't what Trump would have preferred her to say, admittedly. Says there's no client list and Epstein did not work for an intelligence agency. Cenk, I don't know if you want to quickly respond to any of those.
Yeah, okay, whatever, yeah. So her dad is the biggest spy.
Her dad was a fucking spy, a spy.
Yeah, her dad's one of the biggest spies in Israeli history. He stole America's nuclear secrets, gave it to Israel. The fact that we didn't, give him the death penalty is an absolute travesty of justice. He walked around scot-free on his goddamn yacht, bought American publishing houses, etc. Because Israel can get away with anything. So when she says, "Oh, don't worry," even though my family has a legendary history of being Israeli spies, and the Israeli prime minister came over to Epstein's house 30 times, and we had a giant map of greater Israel in the middle of Epstein's house. It has nothing to do with another intelligence agency. By the way, I don't think Epstein killed himself. Okay, yeah, all right, sure. It's absurd. I don't give a damn what she says at all. She's a giant liar, giant criminal. And last two things I'll say is, John, you mentioned that he's never said any kind words about the victims or any concern about the victims. He did have concern about one person involved in the case, Ghislaine Maxwell. When asked about her when she was first arrested, he was asked twice. First time he says, "Oh yeah, I'm worried about her. She's a very fine person." And so then they ask him a second time because they're like, "Mr. President, you just said one of the worst pedophiles in American history is a very fine person." He's like, "Yeah, I like her. He's a very fine person." And of course, to be fair, that's not the only thing he said positive about anybody. Before he said Jeffrey Epstein was a terrific guy. And he liked women just as much as Trump, but on the younger side. Okay, so even if Trump didn't do anything, he knew, he definitely knew. Now he comes around and he's like, "Oh yeah, that thing that I was complaining about and all of my followers were complaining about for 10 years straight, it's a Democratic hoax." Okay, come on. No, that's like a litmus test for IQ. I don't care about bias or blindness or anything. If you were a Trump loyalist who was flipping out about the Epstein files, rightfully so, by the way. See there, I'm unbiased, I agree, you should have been flipping out. To this day, they write it like, when I see the press writing it as a right-wing conspiracy theory that Jeffrey Epstein might not have killed himself. Shut up, that's not a conspiracy theory. The conspiracy theory is that every prison tape has 3 minutes missing and the hallway camera doesn't work and the guards are off on the most important prisoner in America. And just trust us, bro, he killed himself. That's a conspiracy theory. So there's plenty that I agree with Trump's voters on in this story. But if you're a Trump voter and you say, "Oh, no, it was the worst thing I've ever seen," and now you go and agree with Trump that it was a Democratic hoax, well, okay, I mean, you're just telling on yourself. I mean, you're saying I have 30 IQ points and I can't put together a sentence. So yeah, I hear you.
100%. I think we should take our second break, but when we get back, famine has finally been declared in Gaza, and we're gonna give you the details after this.
All right, apparently we have a secret sale at shoptyt.com. Those are saucy and fun. So save 15% on our activist collection with the code, here you go, you ready? BTS. That's behind the scenes. I presume that's what it's for. BTS. It's only to the end of the month, so I need you to panic. And you could use the code on items like Resist and the Anti-Trump collection and more. So check it out at shoptyt.com. By the way, so we also have a free Palestine collection now, and 100% of the profits raised from the purchase of those items will be donated to the Palestine Children's Relief Fund. And there's free shipping in the US on orders over $200. So check out all of those, especially the free Palestine collection. We don't get any of the profits from it, but I love those shirts. I want you to, one, I love that we're giving it to Palestinian children that desperately need it. But number two, I love showing support for Palestinians, the best people on earth. Anyone who disagrees is a bigot. Nerd Ferguson says, did you ever see Donald Trump get a massage as a quote and then says, throws up a little bit in mouth? Or a lot, nerd, right? So, you know, I had this fun theory that part of the reason Donald Trump doesn't want the tapes to come out is not because he's worried that they're gonna catch him with underage girls. He thinks he could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and get away with it. It's because you'd see him naked. And they'd be like, oh no. That's what he's actually like the most worried about. That's my fun side theory, not important, but fun. Drenched Wildfire says on Twitch, honest question, clearly the entire government has been trying to bury this for a month. The story has to some extent fallen out of the zeitgeist. Why are they releasing the transcript now? Because when Trump found out that she said that he didn't do anything, he's like, I want you to release it. I'm not involved, I don't know what's happening, but I found out she, come on, yeah, we know. Like they didn't tell you that they're like, okay, imagine she says, yeah, Trump did it. And they're like, let's not tell the president, let's just release it. I mean, yeah, look, it's not my assumption that his followers are unintelligent because it really isn't. As you've seen me say over and over again, tons of Trump voters are independents, can go the right way, want some of the same things we do, etc. But it apparently is Trump's assumption that they're like painfully stupid, because he says things like it's a Democratic hoax, and hey, let's release the transcripts now. Oh no, I didn't know what was in them. Who would believe that? Who would believe that? Anyways, Bub's Mama 2012, which is a super fun handle, says like she's gonna tell the truth. She likes breathing. On YouTube member section, Smokey McGlue, 69, already fun in every way, says put money on Trump passing before January. He looked horrible in that video. I don't know anything about that, but a lot of people are talking about it. He keeps talking about how he doesn't know what's going to happen if he goes, whether he'll make it to heaven. It's a weird thing to talk about. Richard Withrow said John is so good at commentating. That's funny. Stephen C says this just makes it look more suspicious in my opinion. And I'm saying it's funny because of the word commentating, not because John's good at it. We'll be back. All right, back on TYT, Cenk, Waz, and John with you guys. Also, Melody Loves Music. Thank you for joining. She had that beautiful join button below. And I'm forced to read this super chat by Edwin Baez. Cenk's robotish, stupid person voice is second to none. Thank you, I appreciate it, Edwin. All right, John, what's next?
Okay, well, unfortunately, it's tragic news, but we're gonna do it.
It is a famine on all of our watch. Everyone owns this. The Gaza famine is the world's famine. It is a famine that asks, but what did you do? A famine that will and must haunt us all. It is a famine that we could have prevented if we had been allowed. Yet food stacks up at borders because of systematic obstruction by Israel. It is a famine within a few hundred meters of food in a fertile land.
That right there that you saw is a UN official named Tom Fletcher reacting to the newly released report declaring that Gaza City is in fact officially suffering from famine. Of course, there has been every reason to believe this for a very long time, but now it's actually been affirmed by the UN. We're gonna jump at all the details. But Cenk, first off, it's official now. Will this finally get through to Representative Randy Fine? Will he have to apologize for his past comments? What do you think?
No, he's a monster, of course. Look, guys, it's over. I'm gonna say something slightly controversial here, but I don't think it is. So I think there's only two groups of people left that are still holding on to Israel's moral army, and there's no genocide, and the Palestinians are just, choosing not to eat and starve to death, or whatever fantastical, ludicrous things Netanyahu and the deeply evil Israeli government is saying these days. So there's only the people in power, and that's literally 98% of our politicians still say, nope, no genocide, Palestine should not be recognized as a state, and we should keep sending money to Israel, and they just did, right? It was just a couple of weeks ago, they sent another $500 million. So you haven't slaughtered and murdered enough Palestinians. Go, 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 go. That's 98% of the worst people on earth who are our politicians, right? So they're hopeless because they're bought by AIPAC and the Israeli lobby. Anyone who says otherwise is a liar and lying to you on purpose to protect a foreign government. It's super weird that they're doing that. So obviously, the people in power are deeply, deeply corrupt. Okay, so that's one group, but they're tiny. Unfortunately, they have all the power, but there's like, just a couple of thousand of them in the whole country, right? The only other group that's left is, well, two groups. And there's the evangelical Christians who are like, oh yeah, Jesus is gonna come back and murder everyone. Go Israel, go, genocide the Muslims. Let's go, it's the beginning of the giant genocide we're all rooting for. So those guys are hopeless because they believe in religious fundamentalism that is like apocalyptic and like They want zombies going around, but then don't worry, they're gonna get hoovered up by Jesus and they're gonna look down and laugh at you. Ha ha ha, you're all dying, Jews, Muslims, other Christians, you're all dead. Ha ha. So those are fanatic lunatics that should never be considered in policy. Unfortunately, they were a significant voting bloc in America. They're a much smaller voting bloc now. The controversial part is, look, we've been pretending this whole time that there's not an ethnic bias here, right? So some of the best fighters for peace are Jewish Americans, and we call it out all the time. This is not about Jews, this is about Israel. But the only other remaining group in this country that's blocking any progress is people who are ethnically biased. And they say, no, other people can do genocides, but never my people. My people are the best. And so if we're genociding people, then we're not. Then you're an anti-Semite for saying that. You hate Jews, that's why you should be in favor of genocide. Well, I'm done with it. I'm done with it. No, I get the ethnic bias. Is it just for people who love Israel or Jews? Absolutely not, no way. Everyone has an ethnic bias. And if you ask Turks, they'll be massively ethnically biased on Kurds and Armenian genocide, etc. right? But are we gonna pretend that they're not biased? Obviously, a giant chunk of people supporting Israel in America are people who are blinded by their bias. And I don't say that in a hateful way, etc. I don't hate them at all. I'm telling you, I get it. But we need you to snap out of it. We need you to join, find your better angels inside yourself. Because just saying, no, I'm gonna use all my power to accuse everyone of being anti-Semites, and I'm gonna get rid of anyone who opposes genocide. That is disgusting. It's horrible. And it's not just horrible for the Palestinians, it's not just horrible for the American people, it's also horrible for Israel and Jews. You're now these lunatics who think that they're protecting Jews or protecting Israel are like, no, if you're not pro-genocide, then that means you hate Jews. So if you wanna love Jews, you have to be pro-genocide. Don't say that. You're making anti-Semitism 20,000 times worse. But they can't see because they're blinded. They're like a blind giant. They're like Goliath, or more accurately, they're like Lenny of Mice and Men. Oh, nice bunny, nice. Snapped its neck. No, the bunny's fine. The bunny's fine. And if you don't say the bunny's fine, then you're anti-Lenny. No, you guys have lost your goddamn minds. Snap out of it, because now everyone's starting to hate the entire ethnic group. How does that help you, you idiots? How does that help you? No, they can't see straight. No, my people are the greatest. Your people are irrelevant. We slaughtered 20,000 of your kids. Who cares? You're bothering me. My sensitivities and feelings are offended. There's a famine. Babies are starving to death. Try to find your humanity. Back to you, John.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna jump into the stats, but Waz, did you wanna quickly comment before we get into the numbers?
I mean, it's hard to see how anybody who's for what's happening right now sees the Palestinian people as human. This idea that, they're just not people that the Israelis should be expected to live next to because somehow they're just some special kind of horrific, monstrous brand of human being it's the height of lunacy to me. People get over this kind of stuff all the time, like India and Pakistan, the Serbs and the Bosnians, or the Serbs and pretty much everybody in the Balkans. You name it, India, Pakistan, you name it, people have found a way to live next to each other. The entire continent of Europe. You can just go down the line. Folks have found a way to live next to each other in peace. And if you truly believe this is the only way to achieve peace for the Israeli people, you just have to think in your heart that Palestinian people are just a special brand of alien monster, which I just think is baffling. It's crazy. It's obviously racist. And it's just horrible. There's no way to justify this. There's no way to justify the actions that Israel is undertaking if you see the population of people in Palestine as actual people and human beings. It's just unjustifiable.
Well, let's jump quickly into some of the numbers here. that have been provided. At least 20% of households have an extreme lack of food. Basically, they're starving. They don't have any food. A very significant percentage of kids, we're talking not even toddlers to toddlers, their bodies are wasting away. At least 2 people or 4 children under 5 per 10,000 are dying daily. Of course, 10,000, so you multiply that by many times over to get the entire population. That's how many people are literally just starving to death every day. More than 640,000 people in about a month will face catastrophic levels of food insecurity. That is IPC phase 5 levels of starvation. About the rest of the population will be in phase 4. Some will only be in phase 3 starvation at that point. And over 98%, I'm gonna jump ahead to graphic 4. Over 98% of cropland in the Gaza Strip is either damaged, inaccessible, or both because it has been intentionally destroyed by the IDF. Still, though, I want to say what the UN guy said. About a mile or 2 away, people are having brunch. To be clear, it's not that there isn't food; they're just not giving it to them. They're having family dinners. They're having celebrations. There's birthday cake 1 mile that way. Okay, this isn't like this is an inaccessible part of the world. We just can't get a plane there. They're choosing like, do I want the caprese salad or? I think tuna, actually. That's what's happening a mile away. And just briefly before we discuss, I want to mention 3 sort of things that make me nauseous. The first, obviously, is what's actually happening. That should make everyone feel sick. The second is, and maybe this is just me, it's the feeling I have reporting on something like this, where it's this mixture of feeling disgusted with like a desperate hope of, well, maybe this will get through to people. Because shooting them won't. You can shoot as many kids as you want. Doesn't matter, it's not gonna get through them. You can blow them to pieces, you can set them on fire, you can drop a building on their head. You can do that 100 times, 1,000 times, 20,000 times to kids. And crap, that just didn't get through to people. Okay, maybe if they're starving, then will people care? It feels like reporting on school shootings over the years where it's like, well, surely, if 20 kids are shot, that'll do something. No, maybe if a church gets shot up, no, a bar, a concert, casino, no, none of it. None of it. And honestly, this isn't gonna get through to those people too. Anybody who has the physical capacity for empathy has already experienced that empathy. The rest are not going to because they don't want to. They're not gonna cry for this human suffering because they don't see it as human suffering. They don't see these people as worthy of a single thought, a single tear. Cenk?
So that's why it's deeply ironic when they keep throwing around that anti-Semitic word, right? Which now means absolutely nothing. They ruin that word. It used to mean something, now it means heroic fighter for peace. And because if you fight for peace, they're gonna call you an anti-Semite, guaranteed. And they're gonna say it 2 billion times over because it's a one-trick pony and they're giant liars and all they love to do is smear everyone else. They're like, don't ignore our genocide. The real problem is people criticizing us. They're so evil and hateful. You know what, everybody's sick of that. We're vomiting that word. We can't stand it anymore. Now when anybody uses the word anti-Semite, they're almost definitely a racist. Because they're the ones who say, no, yeah, Israeli children are the most precious children in the world. I think Israeli children are as precious as every child on the planet Earth. I hope none of them ever get hurt, right? Now we say the same thing about Palestinian children. They're like, no, you're an anti-Semite if you don't agree that we should have murdered 20,000 of their kids. We should murder another 20,000. And if you don't say it, you hate Jews. No, brother, no, you hate Palestinians. You're a deeply racist, nearly psychotic person at this point. So I'm done with any Israeli supporter still defending the starvation of children. And what they've done to Jewish culture, is sickening. Holocaust survivor spoke out eloquently against it today. We're gonna share that later in the show with you guys. My favorite author in the world, Yuval Harari, is an Israeli. And he said they're destroying our culture. The culture used to be for openness and caring about the underdog and the victims, and that's absolutely true. Jewish people in this country have been wonderful to me throughout my life. They were the leaders of the civil rights movement in a lot of ways because why? They wanted to step up for other people who were abused, etc. Now Israel has turned that culture into an oppressor culture, a racist culture, a culture who's just indifferent to other people's pain, other people's suffering. And all they do is lie. Every word out of an Israeli government official is a lie. So no, the Israeli government leaders are deeply evil. And now if you're still supporting them when the entire rest of the world says, yes, it's definitely a famine. Yes, you're definitely starving the children to death. Yes, you've definitely murdered 62,000 of them. It's an 83% civilian kill ratio, one of the worst in modern history, worse than Bosnia, worse than Sudan, worse than Aleppo and the butcher of Damascus. Assad butchered those people in Aleppo. That was a 59% civilian kill ratio. Hamas was a 67% kill ratio, civilian kill ratio on October 7th. Israel's at an 83% civilian kill ratio. They're butchering civilians. And from the Jewish people, that's heartbreaking for what they've gone through. Now Israel's inflicting on others. And I can't stand it anymore. And if you're a person of decency and any kind of moral conscience, you have to do everything in your power to get them to stop. It's like we're living in the middle of the Holocaust now, and the biggest debate we're having is, have we offended the Germans too much? Who cares if we offend the Germans? We should be going to war against the Germans in the middle of the Holocaust, and we did. We're worried about the Israeli feelings? Are you insane? Children are literally going to starve to death today because of the goddamn Israelis. And that is a fact. And if you say, oh no, I found the real problem here. Jake said goddamn Israelis. That's an anti-Semite. My feelings are hurt. I do care about your feelings. And your feelings are racist. Say, oh yeah, Palestinians murder their kids. Who cares? They're not human. You're a racist. You're a sick person. Don't you ever say anti-Semite. Don't you ever talk about bigotry. Don't you ever talk about anything. If you're not fighting to end this genocide right now, you're a monster. You're a deeply evil, immoral person. And I don't care what you think. Oh no, I get to say that I'm the only one who's pure. Anyone who criticizes me, fire them, arrest them. They're doing it today, guys. The stupid Trump administration. We're gonna review 55 million visas in case anyone is criticizing Israel. They'll be removed from the country. And finally, that's the last part of it. Israel controls America. Saying anything otherwise is absurd. It's counterfactual. How could in the middle of a famine, forced famine, all of these dead children, 98% of our government is still kissing Israel's ass, is pro-genocide. I accuse them of being deeply immoral scumbags. Oh, where's the money? Where's the money? Our politicians sicken me. And our media, oh no. Oh no. Congressional hearings on anti-Semitism. Protect the poor Israelis. The real problem is how you guys are offending the Israelis. No, the politicians, they're not crooks. They're not, ignore the AIPAC money. If you say AIPAC money, oh, that's it, you're hateful. You know, shut up. Lie on behalf of Israel. You have to lie on behalf of Israel. That's what mainstream media says. If you work at mainstream media and you still haven't called it a genocide, you're a coward. You're a sniveling, immoral, deeply evil coward. I'm sick of the people in power in this country using it to abuse people. They never help us. They never help us. We've given Israel $310 billion. And then Israel comes and says, you owe us. You owe us. Are you kidding me? We don't owe you a goddamn thing. We should cut off Israel. They're not an ally. Let's be clear about it. No one has gotten us in more trouble. No one has caused more harm. No one has caused more wars in my lifetime than Israel. Israel is not our ally. At this point, they are our enemy. They take money from us. They incriminate us to the whole world. They implicate us in their immoral war crimes. No one has hurt this country more than Israel has. Israel is our top enemy. Enemy. Cut off the goddamn funding. You're taking my money to murder Palestinian children. You goddamn racist. That's how I feel about it. Young Turks. Our audience has given us everything, so we couldn't be more connected. When we first started, people would start giving us directions and say, okay, The mics are too large, move them. Turn them into lav mics. I mean, they were incredible. And then one guy walked in and gave us a really expensive switcher and said, "You guys need this," and walked out. Okay, it's amazing. They helped us build a studio. They did a $2 million funding campaign for us. And so they really are us. We do this show together to the point where some of our hosts are even former listeners. So when we say that the audience is part of TYT, we really mean it.
I think what the audience also appreciates is especially if they're members, they really get an inside look into who we are, our personal lives, what drives and motivates us. It goes beyond just storytelling. I think that what we do is allow our viewers and our listeners into our daily lives, and we give them kind of like this inside look into everything that we're passionate about and why it is that we're doing what we're doing, right? Like the motivation behind what we're doing, I think is important for our audience to know, and we're not shy about sharing that with them. And it's different from what people typically see in legacy media outlets where everything is kind of dry and robotic and there's really no personality or authenticity that comes along with it. Oftentimes when we're doing the show, I don't really think of it as me telling them stories. I think of it as us having a mutual respect and conversation with one another. And as I said earlier, I mean, not only do I feel that through the work I do, I'm informing our audience, but they inform me oftentimes as well. You know, they'll pitch stories to us. They'll tell us, you know, a certain perspective or angle to a story that we might have missed. And I love it.
You're about to watch some behind the scenes footage of the Young Turks. Ooh. Now these are partial videos. If you want to get all of them, you become a member, go to tyt.com/join, and you'll get all the behind the scenes of me, Anna, John, JR, a little bit reality show like, tyt.com/join, and enjoy this.
You know what you're seeing behind me? Jersey, hold. Watch me flip this camera. However I flip it. Do I flip it like this? No, I just took a picture. I'm bitzing right now.
What?
Behind the scenes.
Oh, okay. For members? I don't have my face on.
She doesn't have her face on, folks. Oh, that's JR's ass right there.
You can't take 5 minutes off, can you?
No, I can't, Johnny Pie. I said it was live stream, but I was lying. It's not a live stream. It's just for members. Bitsy, this is my cat. You know what his name is? Kiki Cat.
Animals are innocent.
Control room and the insanity is obviously there.
Right now, as you can see, I'm directing or tech directing. I'm so happy to be here.
This is what like a Labor Day beard looks like for Cenk. Man, you're a Young Turks viewer if you recognize me like this.
Such a big fan. Oh, thank you. You are the one person in my life I would love to meet.
What's going on, guys? This is a Bitsy or a BTS or behind the scenes with Hassan Piker, AKA Woke Bay.
Oh, hi, I didn't see you there.
I have finished my show, The Damage Report, and now I get into a really awkward time of the day.
When I'm sitting, the control room is right there. So I can see Bart.
And this is the Pittsburgh office, by the way. Referred to often as the boiler room.
You see how it's ripped? Is it super unprofessional to wear that at a business meeting? Or am I like cool, rebel?
I just finished doing the power panel and I'm fired up.
What do you do for TYT? Not a whole lot.
If you're frantically tweeting at us that something's broken, thank you, because I'm fixing it.
And thank you for being a TYT member.
Super last thing, because there's always got to be a super last thing. Oh, that was disastrous. This has been behind the scenes, behind the scenes.
I want to try and get to heaven if possible. I'm hearing I'm not doing well. I hear I'm really at the bottom of the totem pole.
Drop it. All right, back on a new power panel. Cenk Uygur, Michael Schur, Yasmin Aliyah Khan with you guys. Yasmin's on Rebel HQ. Make sure you check that out. And her podcast is Modern Context. So, all right, I'm gonna try to calm down in this hour and I will probably fail. So you have that to look forward to. So yes, let's do it.
Yeah, I'm not optimistic for you, Cenk. Let's get into this next story.
They're petrified over at MSNBC that, and CNN, that, hey, they're going to be, since we're taking control of the cities, there's going to be ICE officers near polling places. You damn right.
All right, this week, Steve Bannon called for ICE agents to be stationed in and around polling places for the 2026 midterm elections. And that's not all he's proposing. Let's watch him lay out his full vision for the 2026 elections.
It is incumbent that the Commerce Department listen to President Trump and get on with it on a mid-decade census, done this time correctly with correct algorithms, correct data analysis, the way it's collected. Also, no illegal alien invaders, none, zero. Number two is to get these elections squared away. For once and all, no mail-in ballots. And number three is the redistricting. We need a Texas 10 right now. Now in Texas, they're trying to put DPS officers or Texas Rangers with the Democrats. It's not good enough. We need to go to a maximalist policy and these redistricting now. Whether you're in Indiana, Missouri, South Carolina, Florida, Ohio, Texas.
Okay, so to summarize, here is what the full plan looks like. He is proposing sending federal police, the National Guard, and Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents to occupy liberal cities like an invading army. He's seeking to ban mail-in voting, and he's pushing for unprecedented mid-decade congressional redistricting efforts. Also, he's attempting to purge voter rolls and suppress turnout by requiring proof of citizenship to register to vote in federal elections. And he's calling for a mid-decade census that would exclude people in the United States without authorization, which experts have argued would be unconstitutional. But what does Steve Bannon care about the Constitution? Meanwhile, President Donald Trump is writing to the defense of someone who committed actual election fraud. That would be a woman named Tina Peters. She is a former Colorado County elections official. So prosecutors charged Peters in 2022 and accused her of helping to secretly copy Dominion voting systems hard drives by sneaking Conan Hayes, a former professional surfer and purported computer expert, into secure areas of her office in 2021 using someone else's security badge. And within months, data from her office appeared online and was featured at a symposium held by Mike Lindell. Last October, a Colorado judge sentenced Peters to 8.5 years in jail after a jury found her guilty on 7 out of 10 counts related to her role in actually tampering with county voting equipment after the 2020 election. So here is what Trump wrote on Truth Social just yesterday. He said, "Free Tina Peters, a brave and innocent patriot who has been tortured by crooked Colorado politicians, including the big mail-in ballot supporting the governor of the state. Let Tina Peters out of jail right now. She did nothing wrong except catching the Democrats cheat in the election. She is an old woman and very sick. If she is not released, I'm going to take harsh measures." Peters, who is 69 years old, was convicted in state court, meaning federal authorities cannot overturn it. Cenk, we'll start with you on this one. First of all, this is active voter intimidation, a lot of what Steve Bannon is talking about. Also, who is going to pay for all of these updates? He's talking about a mid-decade census that would be wildly unconstitutional the way that he's proposing it. And Steve Bannon is not anybody who has a real role in our government, but he does have the ear of a lot of the people in our government. So what do you think we can expect to come from this going forward?
Yeah, this is an absolute nightmare. It's the worst case scenario. So because guys, when Trump does terrible things, we could reverse them if we win the next election. But if they mess with the voting, then you're totally screwed. That is systemic risk. That goes to the heart of, are we gonna have a democracy? Are we gonna have a constitutional republic? Do we still have America? Or are we gonna slip into authoritarianism? So now, when you talk about authoritarianism, yes, but how would you get there? I've now seen it in different countries, in Russia, in Turkey, in many different places. And the way that they do is Hungary, they slowly strangle democracy. They don't just go in and go, okay, nobody's voting anymore, or I'm changing all the votes in a way that's brazen and obvious. What they do is things like this. All of a sudden, there's the military in the streets. And they say, no, it's for a little elevated crime. Actually, crime's gone down a little bit in Washington. But anyway, we're gonna put them in the streets anyway. Oh, ICE started a fight in LA. Oh, we need the Marines in the streets. So now all of a sudden we got a government that looks like it's run by a military junta, right? So then on top of that, they go, okay, now I'm gonna start playing around with the votes. Mail-in voting. Well, we think that disadvantages Republicans, so we're gonna cancel it. Why? If there was like huge voter fraud, and it was connected to mail-in voting, of course I'd hear them out on it. I hate voter fraud. I don't want a single case of voter fraud. So we asked them for evidence, and they got nothing, zero. Just because you heard it from Bob on Facebook or some douchey right-wing host who's lying to you, doesn't mean it's true. If it was true, I'd be livid about it, because I don't want either side rigging him, besides which I hate Republican and Democratic politicians. So I got no interest in any of them rigging any of the elections. So now you get rid of mail-in voting because you think it's against you. By the way, earlier it used to be in favor of Republicans, but now that it's not anymore, all of a sudden they have a problem with mail-in voting. Then you go to the gerrymandering in the middle of the decade. Well, guys, if you don't know, the census happens at the beginning of the decade or end of the decade, doesn't matter, same thing, right? And then they redistrict based on that, and they do it once a decade. If you start doing it in the middle, it's gonna be chaos. Everybody who wins an election by 1% is gonna redistrict it so they can't lose. So now the Republicans have a slight advantage, so they're like, boom, that's it. We abuse the advantage, we redistrict in the middle, so we grab even more seats, and then we'll redistrict again until the districts are so comical, there's no democracy left at all. And hey, there's a district with 90% that are Democrats, and we took the rest of the Democrats and spread them across the state so that the rest of the districts would be Republican. Well, then voting is irrelevant if you've done it like that. And by the way, the blue states can do likewise, and some blue states do likewise, and I despise that as well. See, it's not that hard to be unbiased. Why? Why would I want anyone to cheat? But unfortunately, people like Steve Bannon and the radical right, they don't care about democracy. They don't care about America. I mean, military in the streets isn't America. Everybody knows that. But they think power above all. If you said to Steve Bannon and Donald Trump, would you rather have power or democracy? But for me, that's a no-brainer. For them, it's also a no-brainer. I say democracy. I'd much rather lose an election and keep democracy. I'd rather lose 10 elections in a row and keep democracy. Well, for them, no way, no way. Give me the power, and I'll bring the military, and I'll turn this into an authoritarian government. And that's what they're planning to do now, purging voter rolls. Okay, look, voter ID is debatable. Proof of citizenship, trying to make it as hard as possible. Then what do? You selectively apply it. So in Philadelphia and Detroit, you go, that's it, I want passport, not good enough. I want the other thing, I want your birth certificate. Oh, you didn't find that, I need the other thing. And meanwhile, in Alabama, Mississippi, and red states, they're like, yeah, no, don't worry about it. Go, vote, right? And then finally, yeah, I already mentioned the fact that I'll add that it's unconstitutional to do it mid-decade. But they don't care about the Constitution. So sometimes there'll be things that I agree with right-wingers on, right? So Charlie Kirk's been despicable lately, but I agree with him that we shouldn't let private equity, or he agrees with us that we shouldn't let private equity buy homes because it raises housing prices. Steve Bannon is against the tech bro donors theoretically. Good, I'll take it. But that doesn't mean that you support them in their entirety. Don't ever make that mistake, because Bannon is 98% evil and doesn't believe in this country. He believes in authoritarianism and raw power. He's a super dangerous guy who's deeply un-American. And this is the heart of the problem, Michael.
Yeah, there's not much you haven't said about it. You know, what this boils down to is what people were telling us during the election here at TYT on the road, which was, yeah, we'd rather have a dictator than Joe Biden. And they got their dictator, and this is what dictators do. They change the rules in the middle of the game. They have people out there as their spokespeople. They mess with the media, and that mess with the media. And Steve Bannon is one of those, right? Steve Bannon is one of these people who's been talking in this way since before Donald Trump was reelected. And he even wasn't sure that Donald Trump was the right person because he wasn't sure that he would go far enough. This is a madman, and these are sort of madman principles. And the notion in America, we don't have military in the streets, but when you look at some of the sort of most disturbing images of the civil rights movement, or anyway, some of the disturbing images of the civil rights movement, it was police in front of voting and polling places. It went into Mississippi and Alabama, as Cenk mentioned. And his whole thing is make America great again. This is what they thought was great. The question is answered. The elusive question, when was America great? America was great when everybody was oppressed who wasn't part of the entitled and part of the elite, but not the educational elite, which is part of why Steve Bannon doesn't like the tech world, because they are part of the educational elite at the same time. It is a disaster what this could bring. And again, like what Democrats do a lot of the time is they bring a knife to a gunfight. And I have to say that as distasteful as it is, and being in a state where 2 times you saw the notion of a bipartisan commission on redistricting approved by voters, to have the governor of that state say, well, we have to override that because of what's going on there, what's going on in Texas, that's encouraging. And Bannon saying they got to do it in Missouri and Indiana and Florida and Ohio and all those other places, not as easy to do right now, but still doable. And these are the things that have to be pushed back on. But it has to be done. It has to be done because they're going to do it if people like Gavin Newsom don't fight back against it.
Yeah. As before you go, my last word on this is, look, if you're worried about voter fraud, why would you want to let Tina Peters out of jail? She literally messed with a voting machine. It doesn't get any more voter fraud than that. Right. If a Democrat was like, oh yeah, I went into a voting machine, maybe changed some votes, I'd be like, oh, prison, long time, right?
And he called Tina Peters an old woman at 69, which I don't know what that makes him, but I liked that jumped out at me in his post on Truth Social.
Yeah, Cenk, I wanted to address something that you said earlier, just like how all these things can be happening and they kind of slow roll it on the American public. So then, people get slowly used to things and they give up a little bit more of their freedom each time. And I remember just like going back to 2014, 15, whenever Trump was getting really, really active on Twitter. He wasn't necessarily running for president at the time, but he was saying a lot of things. He was criticizing Obama quite a bit. He was criticizing the Democrats quite a bit. And at the time, when he started calling the news fake news, a lot of people on the left said, hey, this is gonna be a problem. This is a huge problem. That is not a thing that people in a democracy should think or believe or perpetuate without having any kind of proof. And then what did they do? They said that we were being dramatic. They called us uppity. They said, you don't know what you're talking about. It's not gonna get that bad. And then look at where we are today. And you also mentioned something, Cenk, where for them, it's all about power above all. And for people like Steve Bannon, yes, I agree, it's about power above all. But for the average American, at least the average American that supports all of this that's happening, it's safety or perceived safety above all for them. There are plenty of Americans who, as we are learning right now, are more than happy to forego some of their own freedoms because they feel unsafe and they feel like the military marching down the streets of DC is going to keep them safe somehow. And that's something that actually does get discussed a little bit on Fox News, that people in this country are not actually as unsafe as they feel, according to statistics, according to the numbers, where we see that in a lot of these metropolitan areas, crime is actually going down. But they focus on the feeling that people feel unsafe. But then you have to wonder, why do all these people feel unsafe when they actually are not? I know people here in Texas who live in super quiet neighborhoods, in gated communities, but they feel unsafe and no one is coming for them, but they think someone is coming for them. because Fox News tells them all day long that there are gang members and terrorists and rapists just outside of those gates. And so I think that's really how we get to the point that we're at today, where the military is marching in our streets and the people have not risen up against it in any kind of real way. And at this point, it almost feels like, what can we do? Because we're already here.
Yeah, I mean, okay, you're forcing me to say one last thing. Look, guys, another thing I'm worried about this story is, I know when those independent podcasters who I think are critical in the next election are going to turn, right? And I've done some pretty spectacular predictions on that, on Israel, on Epstein files, etc. On this one, I'm super worried because they love voter ID. Then they're going to pretend that everything is voter ID. I like that Rogan at least was like no military in the streets. Tim Dillon was no military in the streets, so that's positive. I've got hope there, right? But on the voter purges and the voter suppression, I'm super worried about it. And look, whether crime is real, how much you should be worried about it is open to question. But even if you're super worried about crime and you believe that it's legitimate, and I, for the people in the cities that are worried about crime, I think it's legitimate, okay? But the military is not the option. They literally can't do policing. It doesn't make any sense. If you said, hey, hire more police, that's a debate worth having, right? And there's nothing wrong with that debate. Saying, let's bring in the Marines or the National Guard so we look like a banana republic. No, that's not a rational debate. So we're gonna need that center to hold, and on half of this really important stuff, I'm super worried about whether they're gonna hold or not. So look, for my part, for whatever it's worth, I will continue to do what I've been doing, which is not just this show, but go on every other show and talk about this issue. Because if they start messing around with the voting, then we're screwed. Then it's not a matter of Democrats being screwed. It's a matter of the country being screwed and America losing its democracy, and we can't have it. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, let's take a quick break here, guys. And we'll come back with a super emotional story of a Holocaust survivor speaking out against the genocide in Israel. We'll be right back. All right, let's go to our members. Helen 007 says, Cenk, the fact that the Congress doesn't have your same passion about this is so disgusting, referring to Gaza. They actually have the power to do something and choose not to. That's right, because they're all deeply corrupt, and the great majority of them take money from the Israeli lobby, and they serve Israel. PB in J's in my jammy 06 or whatever that is. I love you, brother or sister, because they subscribe with Prime on Twitch. tyt.com/prime shows you how to do that. It doesn't cost you anything, but we do get Bezos money for it. All right, tyt.com/prime. Fidel Castor Oil says, I hate to burst the bubble, but when African Jews heard of Israel and started showing up, they were turned away from the very start. Israel has always been and is today a European colonial ethno-state. When I first started covering the Gaza situation in 23, and I heard about people calling it colonialism, etc., I thought that it's not exactly right. It's just a little off. I think that the occupation is disastrous, awful, terrible, despotic, etc. But I don't know that I'd call it colonialism. But I've now become convinced it is colonialism. They came in for some half legitimate reasons, half illegitimate, and they decided they're going to take the land, and they took the land. And so the stories of the Palestinians leaving are in this country are absurd, totally absurd. No, they were slaughtered, and they were all afraid for their lives. That's why 800,000 people left their homes. They didn't leave their homes to go to a picnic and go, oh, you know what? I'll stay in tent cities in neighboring countries for the rest of my life. It's not because I'm worried about dying. It's because I hate Jews or whatever insane thing that Israel's making up. So no, it is colonialism. It's deeply racist against the Palestinians. At this point, there isn't anything you could say about Israel that's bad. I'm sure you could find something, right? But that I wouldn't agree with. Like, this is one of the most evil governments I've seen in my lifetime. Human Helvete says, there's just nothing like a good Cenk rant. Never stop, Cenk. Thank you guys, all of you. Andy Mayon 2300 says, I love it when Cenk ends a rant with the Young Turks, and I apologize for the caps. Venice Kennedy says, that was amazing. Cenk's my favorite person ever, man. Wow, thank you, Venice. Edwin Baez says, we were due for an epic rant from Cenk. Disrupt Daily says, I feel bad when I see Cenk go off like that. It has to affect his physical health, but I feel like he's expressing how we all feel, so I'm grateful for his passion. No, it doesn't hurt my health, guys. I appreciate you saying that. You're wonderful to care. No, I vent yeah. Anyway, Jeffrey Dottie says, I love Cenk's anger. It makes me feel sane. Yeah, well, Jeffrey, that's the thing, guys. So that anger is in response to both the grave injustice that Israel's committing now, but also because of the gaslighting. So when I turn on TV and they're like, yeah, no big deal, no big deal. We're merely worried about Israeli feelings. Get the hell out of here. You sicken me when I see those dirtbag politicians taking all the AIPAC money and saying, no, there is no genocide. No, we should keep sending them money. It sickens me. And the gaslighting is what drives me crazy. We'll be back. All right, back on TYT, Cenk and Yaz and Michael with you guys. Also, Justin Rody. They just joined and wrote in, just joined. Thank you for everything. Nothing's gonna change until we put a 9-year restriction on Congress. Well, there's a lot of ways to fix it. Try to get money out of politics. Fight corruption.us. I think that's the best answer. All right, yes, what's next?
All right, let's roll the tape.
I watched one particular program of the Security Council meeting where the Israeli spokesperson was about to start speaking and very theatrically put a yellow star on. And it made me feel sick because it was a misuse of the Holocaust.
What would you want them to do next now? What would you be saying?
With somebody who actually had to wear a yellow star.
Yeah.
This was a misused symbolism.
The man you just heard from is 88-year-old Holocaust survivor Stephen Kapos, and he's stating that Israel is committing a genocide in Gaza. So we'll show you a lot more of that very powerful interview in just a moment. But first, Cenk, I want to know what you thought of the whole interview, because what struck me was the candor of a man who has no political agenda. He's just calling something out for what it so clearly is, and he understands that no one can really argue with him.
Yeah, believe me, Netanyahu will call him an anti-Semite. Look, guys, I start talking about, it's a goofy titling or whatever, but a Jewish rebellion against what was happening in Gaza a couple of months ago. And you're seeing it more and more. More Jews across the world coming out saying, no, not in my name. I didn't sign up for this. This is exactly what we're against, right? But it doesn't get any more powerful than a guy like Stephen Kapos, who actually went through the Holocaust and lost his dad in the Holocaust. And he told a really heartbreaking story about it. We'll come back and I'll tell you more about it in a little bit. And he has the moral authority, etc., to be able to say, no, not in our name. This is disgusting. This is not what we're in favor of. So I appreciate him so much. And by the way, the people say it's not your place to talk about other religions. Yeah, I know. I'm past it. Okay, I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna do whatever I need to do to try to stop this genocide. So if you're Jewish out there, wherever you are in the world, go thank people like Stephen Kapos. Not just because he's a Holocaust survivor, of course, and what an amazing man and story, but because without guys like him out there saying the moral thing, and the anti-Semitism would be just an inferno right now all across the world, an inferno. It would be unbelievable. It's guys like Kapos who are reminding people, no, this isn't about Jews. This is about a government. This is about a government. Look at these wonderful Jewish Americans, Jewish British people, Jewish people from all over the world, Israeli citizens, saying, no, this is not about the religion, and we don't agree. So thank God he's here to tell that story. Well, a lot more about him, and I want to get everybody to weigh in a minute, but tell us more about the story, Yaz.
Okay, so earlier in the interview, Kapos pointed out what's happening in Gaza and how it's so similar to the Holocaust, as well as why Israel's objectives don't actually match their actions.
Goes on in Gaza is absolutely horrendous for me. And in lots of ways, the sufferings of the Palestinian people rhymes with the suffering that we had gone on there. You do not free hostages by bombing. That's absolutely clear to everybody. And I think, I mean, I don't know the details of Israeli politics, but apparently it's more to do with his own survival politically.
All right, so later Kapos stated that the media and the West are both responsible for enabling Israel's actions.
You do have concerns, don't you, that internationally not enough attention is being paid to what's going on, or not enough being said about it?
That's true, and particularly, I think the whole of West is guilty in a way in not opposing this decisively and strongly enough. Particularly the mass media that has been, if you like, lying by omission in not.
By not giving enough coverage?
Yes, by not being enough coverage, and by the way they give coverage also at times. For example, taking Israeli statements unchallenged as sometimes as truthful. Where is their record? I mean, we
Okay, and finally, let's hear Kapos. He slams Netanyahu for stating never again is now.
And as for Netanyahu, not long ago, he made a statement, I think at Yad Vashem, to say that never again is now. And this is another clear reference to the Holocaust and misuse of the Holocaust. Because those who actually experienced it, never again means something else. It means that never again perpetrating anything like that on any people anywhere.
All right, so I just want to mention real quick that leaked Israeli intelligence just came out, and the Israeli data shows that 83% of Gaza war dead are civilians, and that really, how does that possibly justify anything that's happening in Gaza right now? If their excuse is that it's all about Hamas and trying to find Hamas, 83%, and that is according to leaked Israeli intelligence. So, Michael, I'll start with you this time. As I mentioned earlier, who can argue with this man? Not Netanyahu, but he's going to, as Cenk pointed out, right? Like, because they have to stay on message. And elsewhere in the interview, I don't think we showed this clip, but the man did say, it does seem like Netanyahu has more of a political agenda here than anything. He has to do this, and he has to continue to do this to stay in power the way he wants to stay in power. And yeah, we all know that, but it's so much more powerful coming from this man who is a Holocaust survivor, who survived the actual Nazis and has lived long enough to now see what Israel has become. He also stated that he himself was never a Zionist. He was a Hungarian Jew, I believe, at the time of the war. And they were never really into like Israel and the Zionist movement, things like that. So he also has a bit more kind of an outsider perspective, at least as far as Israel is concerned. So Michael, what did you make of this interview?
I mean, it's moving, and the thing that, and he did allude a little bit as to some of what you just said when he was talking about Netanyahu. This is about a murderer. This is about a madman. This is about a war criminal. This is about some of the ugliest things, and getting caught in the semantics of it doesn't matter. It's what his government, the people with whom he surrounds himself, are doing to innocent civilians. Like you said, 82%, and that's by Israeli numbers, which just tells you a lot about that. And I think the most poignant thing he said was talking about Netanyahu being in front of Yad Vashem, which is the Holocaust Museum in Israel, and saying talking about never again, which is this, this turn of phrase, this saying that Jews have been taught forever since the Holocaust, to say to never have this repeated. And I think what he did, to me, better than anything else he said there, because you can argue over who's to blame. I think equating the media with the governments around the world is not really fair, to be honest. Yes, the media could be doing a better job, but it's the American government most specifically that is doing the most to facilitate what's going on there, wittingly or unwittingly. But at this point, you have to say wittingly. Trump talked about Canada becoming the 51st state. Israel is already the 51st state, so that Canada can only become the 52nd if Trump were to annex them. But getting back to the point, is it never again? Can we allow anyone to do this to another people? Whatever word you want to say. I don't care if you call it genocide or don't call it that doesn't matter. This is murder. And you don't do that to another people in the way that they are waging this war in Gaza right now. And I think that by saying that Netanyahu is saying never again, can we let this happen to the Jews? That's not what never again means to most Jews. I'm one of them. I always thought we could never let that happen to anybody. And this sort of the way Netanyahu sees it, it's all only about the Jewish people. No, they lived it, so they can say, let's not do this to anybody else. This isn't just about doing it to Jews.
Yeah, look, I think Cabo's point about the media is an interesting one and a hard one, because I understand what Michael's saying. On the other hand, and I'll use a harsh example here, were we supposed to run all of the German government statements during World War II? And under this form of media, we would. We'd go, and the Nazis say that there are no concentration camps, and the Nazis say that they haven't killed anyone. They invaded the Sudetenland for self-defense and the protection of the German minorities there.
But that was run. I mean,
they probably, and I get it. They did say that, but all of that was lies, and it didn't help.
Right.
It didn't get to the truth. Okay, so now to the main point. Look, so he explained what happened to his family when the Germans came into Hungary. Things obviously got much worse, but they weren't great to begin with, but they got much, much worse. They made all the Jews wear a yellow star, and then they made them live in houses that had yellow stars on them, so it was clear where they were, right? And then they said, we're gonna move you, but don't worry, it's gonna be okay. No, they moved his dad and killed him. And so that's when they got to a point where they had to go hide in the woods because they knew that's it, they're gonna kill us all. And so it's a heartbreaking story. And then as you see the kids, starving in Gaza, there's haunting parallel. And so, look, I mentioned earlier all the wonderful Jews across the world who have spoken out. I can give you a laundry list of 1 million people: Peter Beinart, Jon Stewart, Dave Smith, Bernie Sanders, but 1 million more, right? But I wanted to point out a couple people that you might not know about. Leader of the Warsaw uprising. Now this is not about the Gaza situation, but earlier said, and it's going to lead to a clip I want to show you guys. Said back then, don't do it. If you form Israel, then we're going to turn into a government. We're going to turn into instead of it being about a religion and a people, it's going to turn into about a government, and governments hold power, and that becomes problematic, etc. He was so right. He's been written out of Israel's history in a lot of ways, but he was super brave in doing the revolt in Warsaw, obviously, and survived it, etc. In 1967, an Israeli professor warned, and I keep forgetting the name of this great documentary, maybe one of you guys remind me of, that of the former Shin Bet leaders and others who were saying the occupation's basically destroying our moral core. And in 67, a professor in Israel said, we've got to end the occupation as quickly as possible, because if we don't, we're gonna wind up becoming the oppressors and having a culture of oppression. Oh my God, it's hauntingly true, unfortunately, these days. And finally, that brings me to my favorite author, Yuval Harari. He wrote *Sapiens*. If you haven't read it, you should definitely read it. Best book I've ever read. And he's also an Israeli. And he made a really interesting, trenchant observation about Judaism and Israel. Take a look.
October the 7th, 2023, till now. Where does that fit? Is it footnote or chapter in the sweep of Jewish history?
I think it's could be one of the biggest turning points in Jewish history. What we are facing is the potential of an ethnic cleansing campaign in Gaza and the West Bank, resulting in the expulsion of 2 million, maybe more Palestinians from there, the establishment of Greater Israel, the disintegration of Israeli democracy, and the creation of a new Israel, which is based on an ideology of Jewish supremacy and on the worship of what were completely anti-Jewish values for the last 2 millennia. A country based on the worship of power and violence, and which is militarily strong. It will survive, it will be militarily strong, and this will be the spiritual disaster, because this will be the new Judaism.
Yeah, well, I'm deeply worried about it, and I don't want that to be the new face of Judaism. That sounds disastrous. So, look, I'm not Jewish, so I have a concern about it in general, but my sense of it is not only do they need to end Gaza immediately what they're doing in Gaza and withdraw, get to a ceasefire, get the hostages back and leave, but they've got to end the occupation immediately. They got to go to a two-state solution. If they do not, I think that Israel becomes more and more hated and then more and more militaristic. I don't know where it ends, but I can't imagine that it ends anything but disaster. So, Michael, what do you think?
Yeah, look, Harari is a compelling guy. I haven't read *Sapiens*, but I've heard him speak a lot. He's a compelling guy. He's a voice that's being heard now, thankfully, more in Israel than he was before all of this. I'm, more optimistic about where things will go than he is, but he's probably more informed about it, and he's certainly more informed about it. I think that Netanyahu has to be stopped. This government has to be called to task by the people that send them checks, and that's the United States government primarily. And this is a war criminal. This is a madman, and this is a murderer, and that's the bottom line. So when you look at the macro of the history of whether or not there should have been Israel and whether Zionism is at its core a good and pure thing or whether it's misguided, those are conversations to have. What matters now is that this man and his government are murdering people every single day, and that has to stop. And an end has to be put to that, because those other conversations have been going on since Israel's founding and beforehand, and they're important and they're certainly fascinating, and I love having them, but I don't think they matter now. What matters now is that you have to stop a murderer. There's a mass murderer in town, and we gotta stop him. And that sounds base, but that supersedes everything else.
Yeah, I just want to point out real quick. I remember on a different show when we were discussing Gaza, someone had commented and said that every time TYT covers Gaza, we always have to use clips from news programs in Europe or the Middle East. And it's so telling that even after this has been going on for so long, American media just cannot call a thing out for what it is. And I did mention earlier that someone like Kapos doesn't have a political agenda in speaking out against the actions of Israel, but I will amend that a little bit. It is political in the sense that everything is political in that it affects people's lives. His political agenda is to protect and preserve innocent lives that are currently being slaughtered on behalf of someone else's political agenda. So either way, whatever this is, if compassion is political, which I personally think it is, then this man is a strong political voice that we so very desperately need right now. And he's incredibly credible. Incredibly credible is what I was trying to say.
All right, sounds good. All right, we'll take one more break, guys. When we come back, amazing news is overflowing today. We also have unprecedented news potentially. I agree with Third Way on one thing. We found one thing that I agree with a moderate Democratic group on. All right, we'll be back. All right, back on TYT. YT Godzilla writes in on Super Chat. No, I'm sorry, they didn't write in, just gave. So appreciate you, brother. In Liberty and Guns We Trust wrote in, Jews are great people. Dave Smith, Norm Finkelstein, Einstein, Jesus. The list goes on.
Sure.
There you go, Mank. The problem is the
wait.
it went a little too far past the line. Okay, the problem is the Zionists and the twisting of scripture. They're brainwashed, though. That's really hard to fix. So look, looking back on it, I think that 1948 was a massive injustice to the Palestinians. Where you come out on how that should have gone down, because obviously after the Holocaust, Jews had a legitimate reason to want to feel safe somewhere in the world. That's a different question, but really an unimportant question. That's right now the least important question by far, because it's over. There's no going back. There's no, oh, maybe we do one state and Israel gets voted out. It's never going to happen. Because pipe dreams aren't going to help anyone, okay? I don't want Israel wiped out. I don't want anybody hurt. I don't want Israel to exist. So we're past that. The reason I bring up 1967 is you got to end the occupation. The occupation is the cancer that's causing all of this. You can't occupy 5.5 million people and claim to be a democracy. It never ends well. It will never end well. You have to have two states, and you have to get there right away. Super Platinum Man writes in, I like that your Jesus X post got many of the pro-Israeli folks triggered, Cenk. Even the Baghdad Bob of Israel, Elon Levy. I didn't even notice that he does. And now all these like weirdos are commenting on my posts. Half the time I don't even see it. Like Roger Stone keeps writing in about how I'm overweight. Okay, third grade called, asked for its insult back. Who cares? That's your main point? Anyways,
he's over pardoned.
That's a good one. I might use that one. So the reason they get so triggered, well, if you guys didn't see, what I wrote was, if Jesus was born in Bethlehem today, he'd be a Palestinian. So that's just a simple fact. It's, you could take that any way direction you like. Why are the pro-Israel people flipping out? Because they're like, oh no, we don't want anyone to sympathize or empathize with the Palestinians. And if you say Jesus would have been a Palestinian, then Christians are going to empathize with Palestinians, and we want them to be treated as subhuman. So that's a huge problem. So shut up, shut up, shut up. You shouldn't be allowed to say that. Okay, whatever. I am allowed to say it, and you're allowed to suck it.
Well, the conservatives would have gerrymandered Bethlehem into Israel, so it wouldn't be.
Yeah, oh God, not gerrymandering. All right, Disco Stu says, I know some are turned off by Cenk when he yells, but I appreciate the passion because I know it's authentic. Thanks, Cenk, much love. Well, whether people are turned off by it or not, nothing I can do about it. Because it's definitely authentic, as Michael can attest to. Rio Han says, honestly, completely valid crash out. Glad someone said it. On YouTube member section, the Real Chem says, love you all, TYT fam. It's up to us now. In a lot of ways it is. It's up to the people to fight back. Disrupt Daily says, I love Yaz. She always says things in a way that makes me think. She's pure awesomeness. Pete Hohen says, Yaz looking good with her hair pulled up and ready to get to work. We're all agreed. We'll be right back. All right, back on TYT, Cenk, Michael, and Yaz with you guys. Yaz, more news.
All right, so the Trump administration has announced plans to re-vet all of the 55 million foreigners with United States visas, raising new concerns about crackdowns on free speech. Cenk, tell us, why is this a problem?
Yeah, it's an enormous problem. I saw the headline, I was like, I guarantee you what they're gonna say is they're gonna vet for terrorism or support for terrorism. First of all, if you're a terrorist, yeah, of course we should vet for that. That's not the issue, right? And then you read a little further and they're like, no, just in case it's not clear, if you oppose Israel, we're basically gonna call you a terrorist and kick you out of the country. And then we're gonna pretend that Israel doesn't control our government. Okay, well, let's see the rest of the stories and then maybe we'll discuss, maybe we'll debate, we'll find out.
Yeah, so the federal government is selling this new plan as a way to clamp down on alleged abuses of the legal immigration system, including people who come to the states for tourism, work, or school. So this is from the Washington Post, says in an emailed statement, the State Department said that continuous vetting will allow the agency to revoke visas upon finding signs of potential ineligibility, including things like any indicators of overstays, criminal activity, threats to public safety, engaging in any form of terrorist activity, or providing support to a terrorist organization. The US State Department released a statement about this saying, "We review all available information as part of our vetting, including law enforcement or immigration records or any other information that comes to light after visa issuance." So on top of that, the State Department has also introduced new vetting measures, including a review of social media accounts for hostility toward the United States and anti-Semitism. So US Citizenship and Immigration Services, a division of the Department of Homeland Security that is responsible for initially granting visas, wrote in a policy alert this week that it was updating its guidance to say that it will vet applicants for links to anti-American or terrorist groups or those that support or promote anti-Semitic terrorism. If any violation is found, the person will be subject to deportation. Of course, the concern here is what the Trump administration will consider to be promoting anti-Semitic terrorism. In the cases of student visa holders like Rumeysa Ozturk, criticism of Israel was enough for the State Department to target her, and it appears that she's not alone. The administration announced earlier this week that it had revoked more than 6,000 student visas for overstays and legal violations, including roughly 200 to 300 for what it described as terrorism. In response to the new vetting plan, David Beer, the director of immigration policy at the Cato Institute, says it sounded like the administration wants to proactively conduct reviews of social media posts and revoke visas based not on conduct but speech. I doubt that's feasible for everyone, but I suspect that these reviews will be done in a discriminatory manner, targeting immigrants with certain backgrounds and in certain visa categories or specific people they want to excuse to revoke. Yeah, so this is very, very concerning. There are a lot of free speech concerns to be discussed here, and that was the first thing that jumped out to me when I was reading this story. Is like, who is defining what is terrorist activity and who is defining what is anti-Semitic activity? And we've seen things like this happening already on college campuses across the country, where students are being called out for being anti-Semitic or for engaging in anti-Semitic behavior when really they're just supporting Palestine. And we've also seen a lot of universities cave to the Trump administration on these grounds and say, yeah, you're right, take these students, arrest them, whatever you have to do. Protesters who are peacefully protesting for the most part because they don't want to be supportive of what Israel is doing in Gaza. Michael, what are your thoughts on this, and where do you think this could possibly be headed?
Well, it would be headed to the court because to the courts clearly, because this is saying basically, if you have a visa, you're here, a visa that's granted to you by the United States government, except you are not subject to the protections of the First Amendment, which that doesn't apply in this country, right? The First Amendment is the very First Amendment, right? It is the one that says you can say what you want. And like you said, Yaz, discerning between what is free speech and what is terrorism, that's for the courts to decide. And saying that this is, in fact, something they can do is, I think the courts would have an easier time allowing this to happen, but much more difficult time dealing with how, I think it's actually quite clear cut of how it is defined, because there's no way that you can protect free speech at the same time as saying, calling what someone who's here on a foreign visa is doing is terrorism. And the whole notion, this is the Republican Party doing and the conservatives doing what they do very well to the Democrats and doing it to the people that are here on student visas, which is that there might be one person in a crowd 1 year saying defund the police, or 6-year-old should have transgender surgery without any kind of consent. there may be one person saying each of those things. There may have been a couple of people on college campuses who weren't just anti-Israel, but were anti-Semitic, which, by the way, is also protected in this country. You can be an anti-Semite in America. You're welcome to it. But what they do is they lampoon it, and they say that everyone is doing that, and that's why we have to deport these people, and that's why we have to. It is, again, more of this dictatorship, more of this fascism, small f fascism if you want, but it is. These are hallmarks of what fascism is, and it's happening here in our backyard right now, and nobody's irate enough about it.
Yeah. So I'll back up a couple things that Michael's saying. So first of all, great point about the Constitution. So if you don't know, the Supreme Court for over 200 years has said that if you're here, you have First Amendment rights. It doesn't matter if you're a citizen or not. And so some on the right say, no, I hate that, and I want only citizens to have First Amendment rights. Okay, take it up with the Supreme Court. They've been very clear about this for a long, long time. So, okay, you want to reverse that and say, okay, we get to have more rights and lord it over other people, et cetera. Okay, go for it, but it's un-American. All right, now secondly is the wordplay here. That's the real problem, okay? So to Michael's point, are you allowed to be anti-Semitic in America? Yeah, you're allowed to be anything you like. So do I want him to vet, for example, for anti-Turkishness? I mean, already it's hilarious, right? Nobody's gonna do that. Nobody's gonna look to see if you're anti-Norwegian or anti-Turkish or anti-Malaysian or anti-Asian or any of those things. And so already we know this is absurd because they're only gonna look for things that criticize Israel. We all know that, right? So, but even if they did, and they said, Cenk, you could root out not just like 3 dudes we found out who were anti-Turkish, but all the Islamophobes. I'd say no, that's not what we do here. They're Islamophobic, that's their business, not my business, okay? They come here, we'll have a debate, it is what it is. So that's not, and then the next phrase, anti-American. Who the hell interprets anti-American? Okay, I criticize America because I love America. I wanted to get better, I want to perfect the union. Is that un-American? I think Steve Bannon is an un-American piece of crap because he wants to roll out military in the streets. So do I get to decide that he's un-American or anti-American? It's absurd. And then you get to support or promote those views. Oh, forget about it, all your speech is gone. Anything could be support or promote, right? And then finally, the worst word of all, terrorism. It's just a blanket statement that they throw out over anything they don't like, okay? And it started with Muslims and in some cases actual terrorists. Now it's expanded and it's just anyone we don't like is a terrorist, financial terrorist, word terrorist, the hair terrorist, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Everyone that the authoritarian government doesn't want is called a terrorist or supports terrorism towards specific people. Okay, this is junk. It's meant to control us, and yes, it's done on behalf of a foreign government, and we all know it. I loathe it. I can't stand their control over this country. There's no other country that could get America to say, you should look over 55 million people in your country and make sure they don't oppose a different country. That's absurd. That's insane. All right, yeah, last word.
Yeah, when I was younger, like much younger, I never understood why authoritarian governments or even like monarchies from, of the days of yore would dictate religion to people. Because in my mind, like, sure, I'm a Protestant now, or I can just say, okay, I'm a Catholic now, but it doesn't mean that people actually believe in the religion or the belief that's being forced upon them. But then I realized it really only takes 1 or 2 generations, if that, for beliefs to take hold within a society. So if you force the words and the actions onto a populace, then those words embed themselves eventually into people's minds. And yeah, it really doesn't take as long as I feel like it should for people to just give up what they know of the world and of their own beliefs to adopt something else. So all of this just feels to me like they're really attempting to force beliefs on a population that clearly feels some type of way, specifically about Israel. They're attempting to silence the opposition, and just by silencing opposition, then people can be fooled into thinking that there is no opposition, or they're just not thinking about opposition, or by making people afraid to go to schools or go to polling booths and to express their sentiments that way. They really are. They have a good chance of being successful in stamping out a conversation that they would rather people stop having. And yeah, it's obviously ridiculous that we have this term anti-Semitism that is so specific. It's just a specific type of racism, They're not trying to stamp out racism in general. We already know that they don't care about racism. Here in this country, you are within your rights to be a racist and to be a loud and proud racist, right? But not anti-Semitic, which is just a very specific type. And it's also disingenuous. We know what they're doing. They're so, I mean, I guess they're being transparent about it, so you can't fault them for that. But like, what are we doing here? And why isn't anybody in Congress doing anything about it? And that, I mean, that's a big part of why I'm upset about all of this.
Yeah. All right, guys, bonus episode is next for the members. Speaking of racism, they're going to try to write racism and slavery out of our museums and our institutions. Donald Trump's attack against the Smithsonian for the members. Hit the join button below on YouTube or tyt.com/join, wherever you are, and we'll see you there.